Welcome back to In Pursuit of Magic, where we explore the things that inspire us, connect us, and the magic we discover along the way. I'm Matthew Medina, and today's very special guest is an actor, director, and writer whose short film, A West Side Story, is being honored at multiple film festivals, and I'm very excited to talk about that. I'm very honored to welcome Ana Luz Zambrana. Ana, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Matthew. It's very touching. I'm very excited to be here.
Of course, I was looking up all the things that you've been involved in, and especially this short film, which we'll get to, and it just seems very personal and passionate and close to home. And something, as also a Puerto Rican, and I'm a New Yorker and love musical theater, I think touches on a lot of notes that I can relate to. So
Yeah.
excited to talk about that. But I'm very curious about what your first inspirations were, not only in acting, but to write and to direct. Like in childhood, was there anything that kind of set you on this path of
Mm,
knowing you want to do this?
yeah. As a child, I'd say I'm a Cancer, so I've always been very emotional and empathetic. And when I was younger, as a kid, my cousins and I would play this game called Secuestro, which is, I don't know why we were playing a game basically called kidnapping. And I was always the one getting kidnapped. So I would have to act like I was being kidnapped, and I would be crying, and I'd be screaming, and my cousins were like, Didi, I think Anna should be an actress. This is just a game, but we're getting nervous that she thinks this is
You got
real.
into it, yeah.
I think I've always been able to empathize with people's situations and see stories. But if I had to think of like a film or a piece of art that inspired me when I was younger, I was a bit older. I was in high school, but I remember when Jane the Virgin came out. You always see yourself in different roles, and you love Michelle Rodriguez in Fast and Furious, and I always saw myself in her. But when I watched Jane the Virgin and I watched Gina Rodriguez, I felt like I actually saw myself as a performer, as a person, and a person going through like a non-stereotypical kind of thing, even though obviously it's like a soap opera.
Right.
I mean, it's a crazy situation, but do you know what I mean? Like that was the first time that I saw an actress that looked like me, and I felt like acted like me. And I literally looked up, like, where did she go to school? Like, what did she do? Like, I saw she went to Atlantic, and then I went and I did a summer intensive at Atlantic. And I think Gina Rodriguez was a huge inspiration to let me know that there is a path for someone like me. And so, yeah, I think that was a very big moment in my life when that show came out. It was big for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it on the head by saying that you realize that that's a path for you by seeing someone else do it. I think
Yeah.
often it's when someone else opens that door first and you're like, "Oh, wait, this is a possibility." When sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't always feel that way because it's not always represented, it's not always shown on display. Which is why I think it's so important to uplift those voices and tell those stories because more people need to hear them. They need to know that they can do the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I'm wondering, since you started having that dream and had all those inspirations, what was your first step? How did you get started and getting involved in being creative?
Yeah, I mean, I was involved in like drama clubs in like middle school, and I was vice president of my theater troupe in high school. Very much of a theater nerd. So I was very much involved with that in school. And then I did the thing where like every like I think Latino kid does is try to make their parents proud. My father's a doctor. So I went to USF first for pre-med, which was a doozy. And within the first semester, I realized I was like, this is not my strong suit. And I went back home. I went back home to my parents. I recentered, and I think probably the most important steps I think in my career that I'm very grateful for is I went to community college. And I think there's this huge stigma about community college and the people that go there. But I'm like, it is an amazing step if you don't actually know yet what you want to do, in just getting your foot in there, learning, and taking some time to figure out what it is I want to do and meeting amazing people from different walks of life. And I went to community college. I took a drama class, and my drama teacher at the time was like, what are you doing? Like, you need to be doing this. And I was like, oh, okay. So it also takes someone else giving you that validation to be like, no, 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 you're doing the right thing. You made the right switch. And then from then on, I stuck with it. I applied to, universities for BFA degrees. I ended up getting my BFA degree from UCF. Um, yeah, and then I did a couple programs while I was at UCF. I started directing while I was at UCF. I
Oh,
started actually taking control of the stories I wanted to tell. And that, I think that program gave me the comfort and the space to just step outside of the acting bubble and see what else I could do. And then from there, I was able to go to the Kennedy Center and do their directing initiative. And that was another space, an amazing institution at the time that gave me the, I don't know, belief in myself that I could also be the one telling the stories
Done.
as well as being in the stories and helping produce other people's stories. Yeah, and that's, then, all the Yellow Brick Road stuff, all the other things that lead you to where you go.
I think that's huge, though, and I completely agree about community college. I know so many people who really sing the praises of how helpful that was, and it doesn't get enough
Mhm.
credit.
Nope.
And so I'm so glad that that was helpful because it brought you to the right people and the right experience for you to meet to then set you on this path even more, which I think is really important when you meet someone who does see something in you that maybe you were unsure about and didn't fully see yourself. I know for myself, before I even started doing this podcast, it was a thought in my mind. And I had a friend who is in the industry and I admire, and they didn't know about the podcast. They just was getting to know me, and they said something along the lines of, "You deserve to be among the people that you admire." And that stuck
Mm.
with me. I think it really just, when something sings to your soul and like it lines up with something, or this is my path. And I'm so glad that you had that moment because clearly it's happening. Like you're on that path and you're doing the different things, which has me so curious about the difference between writing, directing, and acting, and what parts of yourself get activated in each role.
Yeah. Writing is something that's still rather new to me. So I'm still very much like when acting, I feel like it's this thing that I've like done for so long. Like, what do you need me to do? And it's like a switch I can kind of like just turn on. But writing has been really this new beautiful thing because my partner, he's a writer, a screenwriter, and it's really kind of like activated this new part of imagination, I think, that I never knew that I had, which is crazy considering what it takes to be an actor, but or a director even. But I feel like when I'm writing, it's like this almost like, and I'm in the zone. And I'm writing and I'm in the zone. There's like this world that takes over, and it's almost like this is dramatic, but I feel like I'm being possessed. Like, because once you're in the flow and you're writing and the world is going on and you're just like, I gotta get it on the page because the
Yes.
story is happening. So it's like this thing you just have to like get out. And like I'm very much one of those writers. My partner's very different. He's way, way more what's the word? One that like when someone is like very scheduled and
Yes.
what's the word I'm looking for?
It's just very like,
Deliberate. He's very deliberate.
yeah,
He's very deliberate, methodical. Every day he'll write a certain amount. I'm the dramatic one that's like, I need to be inspired by the
yeah,
gods. But like when I do get that inspiration, it's like 4 or 5 days of like not stopping because this story is happening and it needs to get out. And hopefully that will change because it's not very good business model, I'd say. And then directing, I feel like it's so much. You can only do so much until you get in the space. At least directing theater, you can only do so much until you get in the space. You can prep, I can read, I can vision, but once I get in the space, it's a collaborative effort, which I love. My favorite thing is when we're in the rehearsal room and we're doing exercises and I'm with my actors and then they're bringing something, I'm bringing something, and something is born in that space. And then you have your amazing heads of creative, like scenic and sound, and they're bringing other stuff in. And so that's like, I think the journey with directing, it's all about the collaboration. And then acting, I feel like that's something for me, at least, that's like, it's isolating in a way because you're just like, you're prepping and you're creating. And then once you're there and you just let go. You're there and and you just let go and you prepare the mess and then you just breathe. It's all about breathing. It's all about breathing. It's all about like living and it's all about listening. And it's all about
yes,
being there with the other person. Because at the end of the day, I always say for acting, it doesn't fucking matter what you're doing. If you're caring too much about what you're doing, I don't think you're really doing it well. My humble opinion. It's all about what the person is doing. So yeah, I'd say that's like the three different ways I approach those things.
absolutely. And do you think that doing all three with these creative outlets affects how you do each one? Like, do you have a new approach now, like when you're going back to acting, your experience with writing and directing and vice versa?
Yeah, I think definitely when I'm writing, a benefit that my partner, Aditya, who we write together sometimes, a benefit that I have is being an actor. So if we're writing a monologue, a lot of the times, like I can write it and I'll think as if I'm an actor, or I'll read back through it as if I'm an actor performing it. I think that helps kind of like with inflection points and like, it helps the flow of reading. And then as a actor, I think being a director, you just want to be the most well-behaved actor on the planet. You
Yeah.
you just want to kind of be like, I know there's a lot going on. You tell me when you need me to do my thing or when you want my opinion. But until then, I'm here eating my snacks. Like I just want to be well behaved and shut up and let everyone else do what they need to do. Um,
It's funny because then that also must be freeing when you step into the director role, because then you get to create an environment where maybe people may not feel as nervous. They may feel the freedom to like have a suggestion or say something.
yeah, I think as a director, really try my best. My most important thing for me, like, is my actors. And I really try my best to like make it a comfortable space, but I push them because I think also sometimes as an actor, I don't want to say I feel neglected, but like sometimes you're just like, you're just like la
Yeah.
la 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 la. And as a director, actually, that is my biggest focus is pulling the because I always think like you could have shit going on everywhere else. But if your two actors, your three actors are there, present and engaged, your audience is going to be here for that. That's why I
Yeah.
always say the acting is the most important part of any, specifically with theater as well. Like it's the most vital thing for me as a director. Yeah.
Sure. I think it makes everything that's on the page, every kind of direction, just it come to life. And I think what you said about listening is, yeah, it's huge. And not everyone understands that. They're focused on like, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And I feel like that's maybe only a portion of the work because so much of it is living in that moment.
Yes. I remember I had an acting teacher say, what was it, the exact thing? She said, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable with not focusing on yourself. You have to get comfortable with maybe you're looking ugly because you're crying or having an intense emotion. You have to get comfortable with that discomfort. And once you're there and you're comfortable in that uncomfortable place and you can erase everything going on here, then you're there. Then you're acting, then you're present with that person. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's very important. And it's funny how the journey of discovering how to do that and being uncomfortable is kind of like a muscle you have to exercise while doing it. But then there's the bigger picture of
Totally.
just the experience of being in this industry and maybe facing obstacles and things like that, and not always feeling comfortable in the space you walk into. So I'm very curious about maybe some of the obstacles you faced or spaces that were uncomfortable and how you've overcome them or found a way to keep going.
Totally. Honestly, I think I'm still on that journey of figuring out like how to get through those uncomfortable moments. And sometimes just as a woman in the world, stands even like that, the entertainment
Yeah.
section, like you are uncomfortable, right? And then if you're putting in a leadership position as a woman, there's sometimes discomfort. And I'd like to say that sometimes, just leading with transparency and empathy is the best way to battle that. But also I'd be like remiss to say that I don't sometimes confront that with strength and I don't know, directness. I'd like to say that I live with empathy but sometimes I'm pretty frank and I'm pretty upfront. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times, like in these spaces as a woman, you're met with pushback, right? You're met with
Yeah.
doubt. You're met with those kind of things. And you need to show up and be like, no, I know what I'm doing. This is what we're doing. And then when they see you do it, they're gonna go, oh, that was good. And I'm like, yeah. So let's now get on the same boat and be happy together instead of trying to butt heads, So I don't know. I think I'm still figuring out. I think every situation is different and every person is different. But it's definitely a hard thing to deal with in this industry for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that never really ends. I think there's never any clear end solution to it. I think it's always case by
Yeah.
case basis and figuring out where those spaces are. And sometimes you don't know until you're in them. And I think the hard part is finding
Yeah.
the people in the spaces where you're able to feel most safe and comfortable and creatively free.
Totally. And I have found that a lot of those spaces include lots of women. The ones that I have felt
Yeah.
totally like, wow, this is great. I've been in spaces with a lot of women, and the ones that I have found, and I'm like, whoa, there's some friction in the air, and I'm not sure why we're doing this. There's been a plethora of men involved. And I'm not saying that that's strictly based on gender. I'm just speaking upon experience, unfortunately. That goes to say I haven't been in many, unfortunately, many spaces with a lot of women. But I have noticed, I mean, specifically, we did a reading of our play last year at Soul Fest, and the play is specifically written for 5 Puerto Rican women. Right, so just already in what we've written, it's just like 5 women on stage. And then also our director was a woman, and the only male actually in the space was my writing partner, Aditya. He doesn't really count. And just in that space, we were having so much fun. We were charlando, you know what I mean? We were just having a blast and still getting shit done. And then if someone had to leave early or if someone was sick, like, you know, you just like figure it out. And there was like kind of like no ego, or there is ego because we all have ego, but it was like regular leveled ego. And I was just like, wow, this is really refreshing and sad. I think that we would
Right.
experience more of it. Hopefully that I think will change over time. And that doesn't go to say that I can't be in a space with like men, obviously. I just think there is a different energy sometimes, and preferably I think maybe spaces with men with female leaders. I don't know. I think it's something that can be in conversation still, and I'm curious to see how that will evolve with the more projects I
For sure, and there needs to be more of that. I think there's changes here and there, but it should be kind of the norm. So hopefully we are still working towards that. But it does make me curious in general of what your experience has been like in collaborating with other people and how that has changed your experience.
Yeah, collaboration is my favorite thing. I love collaborating. I'm always a big proponent, like even when I'm directing is just like my job and we're all at the same level and we're all just doing different jobs. And like when it comes to sound, my sound designer, I'm like, you tell me what you think is best. You know what I mean? When I go to my scenic designer, you tell me what you think is best. And of course I come and I try to bring us all in the same like boat. Like here is the ocean that we're swimming on, but like they like determine like how to help move the boat. You know what I mean? Like it's a thing that you cannot be the smartest person in the room. You know what I mean? If you are,
Yeah.
you're only hurting your project. And I've been so grateful, even in our short film recently, like we have an amazing executive producer, Luis Guzman, who like I was like, how is this happening right now? Like, how are you? But he is an amazing, just super giving person to collaborate with him on this project and to see him believe in the story that we're telling. And even in that short film that we did, we collaborated with Josh Echevarria, who's our DP, who is phenomenal. Every time people are like, "Oh my God, your short's so beautiful, looks so beautiful," I'm like, "Yeah, it's because our DP is fucking balls to the wall, incredible, amazing theater scenic designer, Gerardo. He made it look like a production of West Side Story was happening in the short, like a low budget off Broadway theater. Like he knew what that looked like. He made Puerto Rican flags like all around the set. Like he was amazing. And then when we have our amazing composer Christian, he's getting his PhD in like classical composition and like brilliantly put together this score that I think is truly like the heartbeat of our short film. And he would listen to me be like, you know how like when you're in Puerto Rico and you hear the cars like go by your house and there's that like that vibration, like can we get something like that? And he's like, I got you. And he would just like do that, but like in a way better way than like me describing it. And I'm just like, that is what makes your art sing, is when you are smart enough to think who is going to make this shit really come alive. And it's people that know better than me in these spaces, and also people that are going to know a lot about the topic at hand, right? People that are going to know about what Puerto Rico is like or what Latino is like. You know what I mean? Like what is that? So I think that is so important, is to have Latinos tell Latino stories. And I don't mean it all have everyone has to be Latino on the set. Of course not. Like that's crazy. We had a bunch of different cultures from all different spaces on our set. But when people know, you don't have to teach. And if you don't have to teach, then you're not taking your time teaching someone else, right? Because they already know or know better than you. So then actually you're getting taught sometimes, and you're like, oh, incredible. So you're given so much more magic and so much more excellence when you make your job easier by hiring the right people. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I love collaboration. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I think that it flows so much easier and so much smoother and more natural that way because there's a level of trust that then you feel for the people you're working with, where you're like, I know they've got their job, like they got it, they're handling it. And it's funny what you
Yeah.
said about being the smartest person in the room could hurt a project, because I've heard something similar that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And
Yeah.
it's true, because there's so much you can learn from other people who may have input that may change your perspective or add something richer to what you already knew and felt. And I
To-
think that's where the magic comes from in collaboration.
totally. Couldn't agree more.
I'm wondering though, is there a dream role or project that you'd love to either be part of or write yourself?
Dream role or project. I mean, I could say our West Side feature, like the feature of our short film, but that's not a dream because I know it's gonna happen for sure. I was like I'm like it's happening, so that I won't say that's a
For
dream.
sure. Manifesting it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how you have to do it. But okay, so I mean, I've always been obsessed with the play Medea. I think Medea and Phaedra are two plays I've always been obsessed with, but we'll stick with Medea. And I've always just been so like entranced by it and the character of Medea and the gray female character that she is. And I just feel like I haven't really seen it other than maybe like at the National Theater done on a platform that's like huge enough. And for me, either dream role like to play her would be insane. I don't think I'm old enough yet, but to play her would be insane. But also to like create like an adaptation of that work, either as a play or as a film, I think would be
Absolutely.
pretty huge for me. I would be honored to do something like that. So that's one. Yeah.
Well, start writing it out now, because I can see you doing it and making it a reality. Just when you have ideas, just write down little, all right, I could do that, maybe.
No, for sure, for sure. My boyfriend always gets annoyed because I'll always like be like, I have an idea, and he's like, write it down, write it down, write it down. I'm like, okay.
Just put it in your notes app. You'll come back to it later, you'll fine tune it.
Yeah, well, I always say like, that's how I know an idea is right for me when I don't write it down. When I don't write it down, but it keeps nagging at me, and like I listen to a song and it reminds me of the same idea, and then I'm at the gym and I'm jogging and the same idea. Once it's nagged at me enough, like over a span of like a couple months or even a year sometimes, I'm like, okay, this clearly is something that's not gonna leave me alone. I have to like get it out. But yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned music, because I know for me, there's times when I read, I'll listen to music and it kind of sets a movie scene in my mind. There's other times where I'm writing and I set certain music that helps me write a scene. So I'm curious if that helps you in any case. If it's you listen to music and you get inspired to write a scene, or do you listen to anything while you write?
D, all of the above. I think music is a phenomenal tool to help for me at least. But like any artist, whether it's you're listening to it and you see a scene visually, right? Or you're writing and you have music that's fueling you while you're writing. Or every time I do a role, I like to do a playlist for that character. And like when it helps color like the fabric of that character and helps add nuance to that character. Like there's so many things. Even as a director, sometimes when I'm doing exercises with my actors, if we're doing some sort of physical exercise, I'll put music, either that's going to be on stage or that I think would inform the space that we're in, or would help them explore a certain emotion, right? Because music imbues emotion. So if you have your actors with you and you want to help them either A, get more comfortable with a kind of emotion, or B, explore a kind of emotion, put on a song that, helps them get that trigger spot, right? Like helps them like awaken that part of themselves. Music for me, I think is a easy way to help magic happen. It's like a cheat code almost. Like, I find the right
Yeah.
song and it'll happen.
It definitely sets like a heartbeat of a character, and maybe even a project in general, depending on what the score is and what the kind of mood and tone you want to give it.
Totally. I'm a really big fan of plays with music and a really big fan of like films with musical moments. It's so funny because you're just a musical has that plus more. But I'm like, no, I'm a fan of like when there's musical moments almost in the reality or like in the life. Like I think all that jazz, I don't think you would consider it a musical even though it has musical moments in it. I think it's just I don't know, it adds like a different sense of like everyone is singing all the time. There's even like a more of an awkward sense to it Or like in My Best Friend's Wedding. You know what I mean? That's my favorite movie of all time, My Best Friend's Wedding. When they're in that restaurant and they start singing Say a Little Prayer for You. I'm like, this is it. Like this is what it's all about. This kind of like lunacy, but rooted in reality. And you're cutting between these two characters, like feeling all these emotions, and then there's a dancing lobster in the back, singing Dionne Warwick. Like that for me, I'm like, this is peak. This is peak for me.
Yeah, and that's why those scenes become so iconic, I think. They live with
Right?
us.
Yeah, because you're part of you's like, wait, I could kind of see this happening. Like I could kind of see this happening in
Yeah.
reality. Yeah.
And then even if you've never seen it happen in reality, you kind of want to be doing it in reality. You like, I want to be part of that. Like, I want to have fun like that.
Totally. And it can, like you said, it can evoke like that sort of, all of them can be different or like, again, I've watched My Best Friend's Wedding way too many times, but like later on, two scenes later, they're on the boat and he's singing The Way You Look Tonight. And it's a totally real moment. He's like whisper singing it in Julia Roberts' ear, and they're like slow dancing, and like these little girls on the boat are like watching them and giggling, like, and then that's like a different kind of like intimate, really real moment that like even you would be like, wow, I don't know if that's never happened to me, but I could see that happening. Slash, maybe do I want that to happen to me
Yeah.
because it feels real, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop talking about my best friend's wedding, but
It's a classic, I'm telling you. But yeah, it's so true. I think music is such a powerful tool in any kind of storytelling that I feel like it can make or break something. And for a lot of the movies and scenes that become so iconic, I think involve music in some way, which is it just says how powerful it is. I know for myself also just music is kind of like my everyday soundtrack. Like I have to listen to a little music every single day. Or like I feel like what was this day?
yeah. Wait, can I ask you, do you have a favorite musical? Like, what's your favorite musical?
I go back and forth. I think most of the time I say In the Heights, but then
Okay,
there's
fair.
stuff like Hades Town that I really love.
Yeah.
I saw Real Women Have Curves. I really love that. So there's been a bunch of, and of course, the classics. There's like Wicked. There's West Side Story. There's all those.
Yeah.
But yeah, they all kind of they circulate on my playlist, I think.
Okay, that's like your letterboxed like top five if it was like
Yeah.
musicals. Is those are your I
What
love
about
that.
you?
I know.
What are your favorites?
Musicals, I mean like I have a couple like you said I keep in rotation, but like I mean my favorite musical that I know every single word to that like it's like the password to my phone is related to the musical is Les Miserables.
Yeah.
Which is like so sad and crazy, but like I can do the Jean Valjean Javert. You know when they meet in the beginning, they're
Yeah.
back and forth. I do that by myself. Like I sing both parts by myself. Like I think it's incredible. I think it's so sad. I love it. I think it's the best musical ever.
It's funny you say
Yeah.
that because I'm the same way, but with the animated Beauty and the Beast, where like I'll know the whole prologue, I'll start going into the
Oh my
song, so it's like
God.
I'll
Really?
just it's funny because I have a 2 month old, and then there's times where like I'm like reassuring her whatever, and I just start saying the prologue and telling her the story, so it's like it's fun to like be so invested and love something so much that you know it like the back of your hand.
Wow, but that's such a beautiful gift. Also, like that's a great musical to have like memorized in your brain when you have a child.
For
Because that's
sure.
like the perfect I don't when I have a kid, I don't think I'm gonna be yelling, Valjean, like
You could,
at the
hey,
kids. They're gonna turn out to be a special child for sure.
if they take
That's
a
really
loaf of bread from the kitchen, you're ready.
I know. Oh my God, that's beautiful though. That's really magical.
Thank you. I'm curious because we talked a little bit about like obstacles and facing things that aren't always the most comfortable, and I'm curious what advice you would give to others that are either facing self-doubt or getting a lot of no's, which is very common in this industry, closed doors.
Totally, everyone's getting them. That reassurance, maybe not everyone's getting. Let me rephrase what I'm saying. That a lot of people maybe that you think are not are. Maybe that's a different way to rephrase them. And that does not mean that you are not good or you don't have it or that it's not meant for you. That just means keep knocking down different doors, keep trying as hard as it is. Those no's, or even worse than no's, those silences are still going to happen. And when they do, try to find ways within yourself that make you happy and make you find magic in your own art. Because at the end of the day, specifically for people of color, women of color, especially now. You got to do it yourself for yourself, and everything else will come and fall into place and meet you where you are. But you find your cohort, find your people that are going through the same thing that you are going through, and do things to uplift yourself, to uplift them, and also celebrate. Because when one of us gets something, it's like we're all getting it. And that's the thing, I think that's the most important thing. Like, I cannot hold bitterness. I cannot hold bitterness if a friend of mine achieves something. It's amazing and it's a miracle. No, it's not a miracle because they deserve it and it's meant for them. But it's like with the world that we're in, with the climate that we're in, like hell fucking yeah, we're moving forward, right? And if
Yeah.
everyone around you is moving forward, it's only going to be time enough until you're in that same stage moving forward with them. So just try your best to find that kind of love and light and creativity within yourself. Don't wait for other people, because then those people are going to see you excelling by yourself and go like, oh, is that the one I said no to? No, like that's
Oh
the
yeah.
the biggest insight I could give. And always reach out and ask for help. People are more willing to
Yeah.
give help than you think. Always reach out and ask for help, right? Yeah.
Which I think can be difficult sometimes. I think there's a balance between maybe people wanting to reach out for help but not knowing where to turn or reaching out to the wrong people. And then there's
Yeah.
also maybe times of people saying like, no, I need to do this alone. I feel awkward asking for help. I'm sure there's people who don't ever want it to feel like it's not genuine and that it's just transactional, because I feel like if you're
Mhm.
passionate and you're really caring about that other person, it's a lot more than that. But I think finding the right people, like you said, has been so important, and that seems to be a recurring theme with everyone I talk to.
For sure. And like make it so, like you said, like so it's not transactional. If you're asking to grab a coffee and chat and just learn more about each, and you want to establish a relationship or have a chat, like I don't think there's anything transactional about that, especially if you're asking within your community. I feel like it's our duties to connect so we can keep those bonds growing like more and more within our community. I think I know not everyone thinks that way, obviously, but I think, and if you meet the right person, they'll be more than willing to chat with you and have that relationship with you and help you in any way that they can, you know?
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right about our community. I think for the most part that's what I've experienced, and I see and hear in every conversation I have what they've experienced, how they got to where they are, and what has been their best experiences. It seems like that's the kind of way to grow and try new things and kind of move forward.
Totally. Yeah, completely agree.
Now, I do want to talk about your short film, A West Side Story Story. It's been making the rounds at festivals and seems like a very passionate and personal project. So, tell me more about it. What can you share about what's the general plot and the experience of making it? Because it sounded like it was just a beautiful experience.
Yeah. Well, the plot is we follow Carolina, who is a Puerto Rican theater director, and she is trying to put on an authentic version of West Side Story. Stuff starts to happen in a theater production, as it always does. Things don't go right for her. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, and it was born by like two things. I was kind of getting interaction through the industry of like what my version of West Side Story would be as a director. And then I told my partner like I don't think I could ever do West Side Story without ever commenting on the fact that it wasn't made by us or for us. And that doesn't mean that there's not a nuanced I don't have a nuanced relationship with it, but that is the truth. Like that is the factual information. And I don't know if I could never comment on that. And so my partner was like, I think there's a short film in there. There's a short film of a Puerto Rican theater director trying to do that, make something authentic. How do you make something authentic that was never made for you? Can you? I don't know. And that's a question, honestly, we're still navigating an answer to. I don't know if the short film answers that question. Hopefully, it just helps open that conversation. And then the other reason why we did it was because I wasn't getting any auditions. And if I was, it was for things that I was like, I'm not shining in this. Like, this is not the kind of role that, one, I think I'm not good at. I think there's other actresses that are way better than me that can do this, kind of role. Or two, like the kind of role that, like, I'm not excited to portray for our community. It's not
Yeah.
the stories I want to tell for our community. You know what I mean? I always tell my partner, I'm like, I want to do the roles that the white guys are doing. And what roles do white guys always do? Theater director roles.
Yeah.
troubled, obsessed, auteurs. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're always the roles they do. And I love those roles. I think they're meaty. I think they're cool. I think they're gray. And I'm like, but I'm not getting any auditions close to that. You know, I'm not getting anything close to that. So he was like, why don't we write you a role that you would actually be happy to do? And regardless if it goes anywhere, you can end the year knowing I did a role that I'm proud of. And I didn't have to wait for anybody to say they saw something in me because I see those things in myself. And so we wrote it and then we like shopped around. We wrote it in the spring, shopped around for theaters in the summer to be like, hey, we're filmmakers trying to do a short film. Can we have your space? Would you like to be our non-fiscal sponsor? Blah, 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 blah. And we got a lot of no's because a lot of theaters had a lot of things going on. So fair to them.
Right.
But then we found an amazing partner in Brooklyn Music School. I think it truly was a miracle. That was a miracle because we like went in and had an amazing conversation with Brian, who runs Brooklyn Music School, and he showed us around the theater. We had a conversation in his office. We told him what we wanted to do, and he was like, you know, our school is all about giving music education to kids in, you know, different kind of communities, POC communities, not different, but POC communities. I think what you're trying to do here aligns with what we're trying to do here. Let's see if we can make something happen. And we were like, oh my God, thank you so much. And we got a couple days. We had one day to shoot it. We shot it in the fall, and with our amazing team, and everyone worked so hard with the little amount of time that we had. We hired a lot of our friends from, you know, Latino theaters in New York, and just friends that, you know, we know deserve to be working way more than they actually are. And we did it, and we shot it, and then we edited it, and then we did post, and then we were like, well, it's done. Now what do we do? And then our amazing EP, Luis Guzman, and producer Andy Guzman just helped us shepherd it into like the film festivals, and we couldn't be more grateful for seeing and believing in what we did, and thinking that this story and stories adjacent to this story are just important as other stories that are getting platforms nowadays. So yeah, so that's kind of the rundown of how we did it.
There's so many amazing parts, though, about that whole experience. First of all, that it was shot in a day, which is unbelievable, because from what I've seen, it looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
But then also just I mean, we were talking before about getting a lot of no's and a lot of closed doors, and that was happening with you finding a space, and then you finally got the yes, and that worked out. And yeah, Luis Guzman, you had mentioned earlier how that experience was, so I'm wondering how he came to be part of the project, and what was it like working alongside him?
Yeah, I mean, we'd been talking to them once we already had the script. Like, once we already had the script, we've been in conversation with them, and they were just like huge supporters, and very much like those people that, like, when you write something, we were grateful to have it, like someone that is established, to see that you wrote something and to go, yeah, this is actually really, really good. This is a good story to tell. And you go, okay, so I should actually go forward with this crazy idea of mine. You know, it's that validation that sometimes we don't get all the time, but it was nice to have that. And then just to have, like, I have a video on my phone of Luis's reaction after he saw the short. And I remember, oh my God, I'm so emotional. I'm like gonna start crying. But like, I remember like watching his reaction and seeing like a legend such as himself like react so genuinely and so deeply to what we had like just like put together is crazy. Because there should be more stories like that already happening that make him react like that. You know what I mean? Like, put my ego on the ground. Like, I know it's a good short. Like, for him to have that reaction, it touched us, but also made us realize we need more stories like this to be happening in this room and in this world, because clearly even Luis agrees, like, we need to have excellent storytelling for the excellent stories that are in our communities, and that's just not happening. So it was a really huge honor to see his reaction, and my parents all cried. We all cried. We're super dramatic over here. And he has been a very amazing mentor and kind soul. Above all, he is a kind human who cares about good in the world, who cares about the right things in the world. And he has been an exemplary example of what it is to have an excellent career rooted in humanity and rooted in humbleness. And I think that's a really hard thing. Because at the end of the day, it's a privilege to make a film, even a freaking short film. Like, I can sit here and be like, oh, it was so hard. But we made a movie. There are people, like, not to quote Kourtney Kardashian, but there are literally people dying. Like, it is a privilege to make a film. It is a privilege to be surrounded by artists. It is a privilege for me to, like, I'm in my parents' home right now. It's a privilege to me to go back and forth between like New York and Florida. And when I need a moment to breathe and a financial break, I can come home. Like all of this is privilege. And how do we harness our privilege to make stories that are important and push the narrative forward? And I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but like that is what I think is important to say.
No, beautifully said. And it's funny because I think, yeah, the crazy part is that there are not more stories like that. But I don't think it's crazy that what you made so many people emotional because clearly you're doing what you're meant to do. And I think it's very admirable that you saw a space that wasn't being filled and stories that weren't being told. And you went and did it. And we need more people like you. We need more of those stories. We need more people who are just like, well, no one's going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I just think that's what creates such a beautiful work of art at the end of the day. And I feel like it's going to touch more and more people the more people see it. And so I'm curious. I know it's been going to different film festivals. It's going to one in Puerto Rico, which is very exciting. Are there
Yeah.
any plans for a wider release at some point? Are there talks?
At some point, totally at some point. Yeah. We're in conversations about that now, but we have a couple more festivals that we're still doing the circuit on. So we have one in New York coming up in top of November, International Puerto Rican Heritage Festival, November 15th, I believe. We have one and then we have a couple more in the spring. And I want to say we have one in I want to say, but it could be, but I think it's Vermont. I think it's Vermont. I think we have one in Vermont. Soon, actually, this weekend, I believe. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, so yeah. So, but eventually after the festival circuit, that is our plan is to wide release it. We want to be able, I'm getting a lot of DMs and a lot of things of people where can they see it? And I'm touched by people wanting to see it and hopefully it can touch a whole other group of people that didn't know it existed. Yeah. So soon.
Has this experience now given you ideas for other projects or even just like writing ideas down for something else?
Totally. I mean, it's given me a lot of confidence. I'll say that specifically when it comes to writing. I've written another short, I've written a feature. We're currently in the process of writing the feature version of this, and it's just giving
Awesome.
me a lot more confidence as a creator. And that's the important thing that I think for a lot of artists out there is they just need someone to be like, "Yeah, this is good. Keep going." And that is what I think a lot of artists, and especially POC artists from a younger age, like if we had that, our careers would be different when we're older, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I'm saying like that kind of encouragement is important because we all have a lot of self-doubt. We all have a lot of self-doubt. So if there's ever a time where like you can tell anyone like that's great, keep going. You have no idea sometimes how that kind of like validation can affect someone because surely it's affected me into thinking like I have the capability and telling more stories about my people in a nuanced way, right? In a diasporic way that explores us as human beings. Because I don't actually think a lot of the times in the media we're really seen like human beings. We're
Yeah.
seen as specific kind of tropes, but we're not really given the privilege of having a fully rounded human experience. A lot of times our stories are not. So yeah, I think it has.
Absolutely. And I'm very excited to see what stories you have in store because I know you have a lot more in you. And I'm sure as you experience more and create more, you'll get even more ideas, which is incredible. So I think it's going to be a really exciting journey for you. And I'm excited to see what's next. So, Anna, thank you so much for being here. It was such a blast. I'm very excited to see what you've got going on next and where this short film takes you and all the festivals that it's being honored at, which is crazy in the best way. I feel like that's so exciting and I'm so happy because it's such an important piece of art and I'm excited to see it. So I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, thank you for being here. It has been an inspiration and I hope you just keep writing and creating, take up those spaces.
Thank you so much, Matthew. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm very excited for the work that you're going to create. You're a very beautiful soul, and I appreciate everything you're doing here on this podcast. I think it's beautiful.
I think I'm really trying hard to make other people feel like they are not alone and there's a community out there and that they should follow what's in their heart and just create even the things that haven't been created yet that they are hoping for. So
Totally.
where can people follow you so they can keep up with everything you're doing and follow each festival that you're presenting at?
Yeah. My name is Ana Luz Zambrana. You can follow me on Instagram. I want to say my handle is like Lucita. I think it's underscore Lucita. My middle name is Luz, or Lucita underscore. One of the two variations of that. And then our short film handle is a West Side Story story. So you can, on Instagram, you can follow our short film on that. Yeah.
And I will be tagging both accounts when I post about this episode and drop it. Thank you again, Ana. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And everyone out there, keep doing magic. Bye, everybody.